This video is going to go over the method I recommend for making spread footings for the interior of your building. Now the sort of technique is very similar to the spread footings for the exterior of your building, but we're going to use the same floor, for instance, but we're going to use it a little bit differently. We're not going to create like an offset and create a continuous floor. So let's go to structure, floor structural. We can use the same spread footing family, and we're going to go up here on our draw tools and we're going to use the circumscribed polygon. Go ahead and change these sides to 4. And you can do a couple things. You can change the radius to be the width of your let's see here. So this will be 1 foot. You can change this to, let's say, 18 inches. But that's not necessarily enough because we need the radius to be half of 3 times the width of our bottommost column. So this is a 16-inch column here. So that means that half of the radius would be 8 inches. So we need 3 times 8 inches, so that would be 24 as our radius. So that is one method to creating it, or you can just turn the radius off and type 2 feet. And again, yours might not be have a radius of 2 feet. Just take your bottommost column, cut that in half, and then you can get half of the radius, and then you can figure out the full radius. So just to show you that that was successful here, we could take this as 16 inches. We can also take this as 16 inches. And this at 16 inches. So I'm just going to delete those and hit check here. And now, because we're in a structural view, and you might see this one-way slab tag. We don't really need that. You can delete that. It's not a big deal. And we need to sort of copy and paste this. So rather than double-clicking and drawing this every time, I would hit check, and we're just going to use the copy tool. Now, before we copy it, we need to make sure a couple things are done correctly. Now, you can do this inside of the sketch tool as well. So before you place it, you can change this. But we need to make sure that the top of the footing is actually going to be set to our top of interior footing level. And this is the same as the bottom of the slab. So you can also change the level to the ground and change the offset to something like -8 inches, which is the depth of your slab. So I'm just going to change this to top of interior footing because I showed you how to create that level and I've already created it. So we're going to hit check here. Now if I go to a 3D view, you can see that that footing was placed successfully under the building. Let's go back to the ground, and I can use copy tool or CO and just copy it to the center of our beams. Now when you come up to this, a shear wall, or the original one I designed, you don't, or sorry, the original one I drew it on, you don't actually have to draw it on the whole thing. You could just copy it and we can edit this boundary in a second. So just draw it to one side. For this class, actually, a lot of these columns would be absorbed here. So on the edges, this column would probably be just gotten rid of because it carries the same load as the width of the wall, and the width of the wall might be increased a little bit. You know, there's a little bit of structural engineering that has to happen there. But for this class, you can keep those for right now, and we can delete them when we go through and we do a final check. So I'm just copying to all the positions, and I'm copying even under the steel columns. Now if you have some sort of weird situation where the grade beam sort of intersects with it, there's a couple things you can do, but what I would recommend is just double clicking and using something like a pick line tool and reducing this down. This would probably extend, so I'm just going to extend this. And we're just simplifying the drawing. We actually don't need this anymore, and I'm going to use trim line. There we go, and there we go. Whoops, wrong one. This one. And so now we can hit check. We need to add a span direction. And that's good. So now if we go to our 3D context, you can see all of them are being placed. I missed a few over here, but that's okay. And you can see the one that I just sketched and gets sort of absorbed there. Let's go back and see how to change the shear wall, the footing under the shear wall. So what I would do is I would place one of these spread footings, which you know is double the width of one of these columns, or sorry, it's triple the width of one of these columns. And then we can double click to get into the sketch, use the align tool to bring it over to the other side. And here you can see I accidentally don't need this duplicate, so I'm just going to delete that. And now I can go into align, and let's bring it over to this line here, the edge of this column. It might be the edge of your wall as well. And I actually need to move this out the width of the total width of the column, which is 16 inches. So let's go ahead and move it 1 foot 4 inches. So there we go. And if we got rid of the columns, we could keep that spreaded footing just the way it is. So you don't have to modify that. So I'll do the same thing over here and the same thing over here, and then we are good to go. The last video, I'll show you how to do this on the exterior of your building, for things like the column for your porch, or a column for, in my case, a sort of non-traditional shear wall that goes to the exterior of my building.